Daf Kuf Tet Zayin Amud Bet by the Mishnah Daf Habayit. No Perek. Habayit v'ha'aliyah shel shnayim shenaflu. If a ground floor and upper story, let's say a two-floor building, belonging to two people, collapsed. Shnayim chukim be'aitzin barim u'ba'afar. Both of them divide the wood, the stones, and the earth that collapsed, respectively, to how much they owned. If it was each floor was 10 feet each, they each got 10 feet worth of this stuff. We determine which stones are likely to have broken based on what fell and how it fell. If one of them recognized if some of his stones, based off the color or whatever it is, he can take them for himself. And they count towards the total of what he's supposed to get. Well, let's spin that in the Gemara. Okay. Since the Mishnah mentioned Ro'in, that they determine which ones broke, it sounds like Mishnah talking about a case where it's able to establish Iba Habas, and I feel whether the wall fell like collapsed straight down. Iba Habatan, I feel, or it fell sideways. Yachim, that's the case. And how come the first part Mishnah says you divide it? Nechzi, just see how the wall fell. Iba Habatan, I feel, it fell sideways. Eliata Itbur, the upper story broke. Iba Hasan, I feel, but it fell downward. Tiata Itbur, then the lower story broke. Easy to divide it because you could tell what broke. The Gemara said Latricha. Then I found the fell at night time. Gemara says okay. Wait till the morning and then decide. The Gemara says the Fanina. It was already cleared away. Okay, so that's on the Paninos. So check who cleared it away and let's show you and ask him. The Gemara says the Paninu b'nei Rishut Rabim be'az alma. Passerby in the street cleared the streets from the stones and they went away before we can ask them questions. The Gemara says okay, but let's see whose property the stones are in after being cleared away. And the other party who's trying to take the better stones, has to prove to extract it from his friend. So since let's say there's two courtyards off the two floors, and one of the courtyards received the stones after it was cleared off, then the second guy should have to prove it. The answer is that they were put in a mutual courtyard. So therefore, there's no raya brought. Or put in public. They have a different answer. Then in this type of situation, these partners are not makpid on each other. They don't care about the where you keep stuff. They share the properties. Okay. Next part. They recognize. Where it says, so you're saying that one guy recognizes his stones. What's the other guy saying? Even if he says yes, I agree, pshita, then what's the problem? Why would he not take it? If the guy says I know this is mine, the other guy says yes. So Gemara says, if he doesn't say yes, lama notel, why does the other guy take it? Why doesn't he have to prove it? Gemara says, Ella amarle any of that. It must be a case where he's saying that Reuven says, I know these are my stones, and the other guy says, I don't know. So lema to have a tufta that Rav Nachman, let's say it's a proof against Rav Nachman, the itmar, we know. If someone says you owe me $100, and the other guy says I don't know. If I owe $100, Rav Huna Rav Yehuda Amri Chayav, Rav Huna say and Yehuda say Chayav, but Rav Nachman Rav Yochanan Amri Patur, Rav Nachman Rav Yochanan say Patur. So we see according to Rav Nachman that even if he's not sure, you don't have to pay. So I come over here, the guy automatically takes the stones, the other guy doesn't know. It says that situation is talking about a case where there's an issue with a shivua, issue with swearing. He can't swear. How can I also over here that he can't swear? Why? We had this before as well. What does that mean? Many the guy says, you owe me $100. And the other guy says, I owe you 50, not 100. And the other 50, any of that, I don't know if it's true. So and because he can't swear on the second 50, because he says I don't know. So you can't swear on something they don't know about. Because he can't swear, he has to swear. He has to pay. So that's what our Mishnah is referring to, where the guy admits to some of the stones but doesn't know about the rest. So since he can't swear, the other guy has to agree that he could take it. Next, it counts towards his total. So now, what does that mean? Rabba thought to say, it counts toward the total of broken stones. Meaning, he takes these big whole stones in place of what he should have received in broken. Now, the said, we see from here that one who says, I don't know, he can't identify anything, he has a weaker position because he can't identify anything. Since the other guy is still getting 100 stones and now 20 of them are whole, we see that the guy who says, I don't know, loses. The Gemara says, it's not fair. The guy who identified the stones should be in a weaker position. Since he knows that these 20 stones are his, that means he doesn't know anything else. Therefore, maybe he doesn't own anything else. And therefore, all the other stones belong to the other party. Where I said, no, this doesn't count toward his whole total count, not the total 100 stones. Rather, this is 20 whole stones out of 50 whole stones, not 20 out of the whole 100, including broken. The Gemara said, why would the guy identify it if that lessens the amount of stones that he's getting? The Gemara says, he identified the bricks that were wider and bigger and nicer. Or he identified the bricks from the type of clay, and therefore the way he's gaining by identifying the stones is that he's identifying better quality stones, and that's why it's worth it for him to identify it, even though he will take away from his heshbon. Okay, habayit v'aliyah, a lower apartment and upper apartment in a two-story house. If part of the floor breaks, the ceiling of the first floor and the floor of the second floor breaks, the owner of the house doesn't want to fix it. The upper guy, the tenant, can hold it down in the landlord's apartment in the first floor until the landlord fixes it. Says, the lower apartment has to just provide the ceiling, and the upper apartment tenant should have to cover the plaster. So the landlord provides the ceiling only, and the tenant has to provide the plaster. So, how much of the floor broke in for this halacha? The Gemara says, beruba, most of the floor broke. And Shmuel says only even 4 tvachim. So, Rav was talking about the whole floor fell in, majority at least. But 4 tvachim is not enough. Adam daru lamata v'chetzul. A guy can live partially down and partially up, and therefore, if it's only 4 tvachim, that will be like the size of a small table, and therefore he can put the stuff that he needs for that small table on the first floor, and therefore he doesn't have to move in fully to the bottom floor. Shmuel says 4 tvachim. And a person is not expected to live somewhat down and some up. That's the case. If he said, when I'm renting the landlord on the first floor, said, I'm renting you this upper apartment, this apartment is now gone, and therefore he's patur. Mishnah talking about a case. Aliyah he said, I'm renting you an upper apartment. The Gemara says, let the landlord rent him a different apartment instead. Why does he have to let him move in into the first floor? The Gemara says, he told him, Aliyah zu sha'ani maskir lach, ki salka salik bahada, v'chinahit hut bahada. He said, when I'm renting you this, the landlord told the tenant, when I'm renting you the second floor, when it goes up, go up, and when it goes down, go down. Meaning, if you can't live up, you can come down. That's the case. Was the Hidush Mishnah. That was part of the clothes that he can move on the first floor, and there's no Hidush. Rather, the Amar Le, he told him, Aliyah with the upper apartment, which is on top of the lower apartment, I'm renting to you. Which is the Sha'abe Ba'at Aliyah, therefore he basically kind of threw in the lower apartment with the upper apartment, and that's why he's able to move down. There was a story about a guy who told his friend, similar wording, that this vine that on top of the peach tree I'm selling to you, and the peach tree got uprooted. He said the halacha was put up a new peach tree, as long as the vine exists, because you made it part of the rent. You're renting him or selling him this vine that's on top of the peach tree. Peach tree is gone, replace it. So to over here, the guy told him, I'm giving you the upper apartment on top of this lower apartment, which means the lower apartment is your backup, as to say. Like you could give her, you're able to have them move in if necessary. By Rabbi Abba Barama, he asked the question. Kishudar, when the tenant's living in the lower apartment, can he live alone? Can he live in rooms like upstairs? Or maybe he has to live with the landlord. The landlord could tell him, I didn't tell you to move in to the second floor, that if you need to move in on the first floor, I get evicted. If you want to move down with me, you can move with me. I'm not going anywhere. The Gemara says, even if you want to tell me that they both live together, when the tenant lives in the lower apartment, if you go through the regular front door, or does he have to go through his apartment on the second floor to go down through a ladder? Mi Amar do we say basically that the landlord could tell him same way you used to go through the second floor to your apartment, therefore you want to come into the first floor, you have to come in through the second floor ladder. Maybe you could tell the tenant, the landlord, no, when I rented the apartment to go up. I didn't rent the apartment to go up and down, and therefore, if I'm living on the first floor, I get to come in through the first floor building door. So now, in this law, if you want to say, the tenant can tell that to the landlord, that he can tell him, I want to go through the front door. What if there's two upper apartments, on the second and third floor? If the tenant was living on the third floor, and that floor broke, the ceiling of the second floor and the floor of the third floor broke, now he obviously can go down into the second floor. If let's say the second floor broke, does the law require him to go all the way to the third floor in order to go down straight to the first floor? Do we say that the landlord tells the tenant, Shem aliyah you accepted the fact that you're going to go all the way to the third floor and therefore figure it out? Or maybe the guy could tell him, no, I accepted to only climb one floor. I did not accept to go up two floors. Teku, all these questions are teku. Next, Rabbi Yosef says that in the Mishnah, the lower landlord has to provide the ceiling and the other guy has to provide the plaster. My tikra, what is the ceiling? Rabbi Yosef he says, Kinim usnain, just reeds and thorns, and then the other guy has to provide the rest, the tenant. Utzi'eni amar Rabbi Shimon ben Shakish, you have to put, the opinion holds to put cedar wood. The reason it's not machloket because they're just explaining what each of them have in their locations. Each rabbi has in their own place what their ceiling was made of, and that's why each of them are saying that custom. There's sort of two people that have a diet. One guy living on top, one guy living on the bottom in an apartment. The layer of plaster fell apart. When they were living, the guy living on top would wash his hands. Would drip down to the bottom first floor and damage there. So Rabbi Chia says the tenant has to fix it. The second floor is fixed. The opinion holds they have to fix the bottom. The one on the bottom has to fix the plaster. So maybe this machloket of who has to repair it is the same machloket we see elsewhere. According to the opinion holds they have to, the one who's living above has to fix it. He holds kasavar al hamazik la. It must be that he holds like the opinion that holds that when there's a case of property damage, it's the responsibility of the person who's damaging to fix it or quote unquote distance the damage from the damagee and the person who's getting damaged. And therefore, since you're the one who's causing the water, you have to fix it. This is according to the Yosef. Again, according to the opinion who holds that the bottom has to fix it, he must hold kasara exactly. He must hold that the person, the damagee's responsibility is to fix it from the damager, which is according to Tanakama of our Mishnah. So, the word is 1 second. Do you hear things about regarding damages? But we have the opposite is true. The Mishnah says, a person, when he's planting a tree, he has to make sure his tree is 25 amot away from his neighbor's pit. Otherwise, break the pit from the roots. In the cases of a carob or sycamore tree, which roots grow more, you have to distance it 50 amot from the guy's pit. Whether the pit's on higher ground or lower ground on the tree, or the same ground. Now, if the pit was there first and then you planted the tree, the owner of the tree must cut it down, and the owner of the pit pays him off for cutting it down because technically the guy had plenty of time until the roots reached the border. If the tree came first, you don't cut it down. You don't know which one came first. You don't cut it down at all. Says, even if the pit was there first, you don't cut it down. No, if this guy planted his tree is 20 amot away, I'm planting it in my spot. If my roots reach there eventually, that's not my problem. I'm always see from here. Rabbi Yossi survived on exact we see from the Rabbi Yossi holds over here that the damagee's responsibility is distance from the damager. Around Sabri Klamazikla Hachamim hold that it's the responsibility of the damager to distance, which is the opposite of what we just said. So therefore, it can't be talking about damages because the machlok of damages is the opposite. It says rather, if it is a machloket based off anything, the machloket over there by the tree and the pit is their machloket. However, by the prevention in our case, it's not the same machloket. So Rabbi Chia, who said that the guy living upstairs has to fix it, agreed with Chachamim because it's the one who's damaging to fix it. And Rabbi Chia ben Rabbi Yossi, who holds that the guy downstairs to fix it, he holds like Rabbi Yossi, who holds the damagee is responsible. Okay, Rabbi Yossi regarding our machloket over here, but my committee was machloket. The Hozek committee to disagree where the point of contention, if you will, is regarding the damage of the ceiling. So if the guy is complaining that the ceiling is the breaking every time the guy upstairs stands, he says, you know what, you have to fix it. So Rabbanan that the primary point of this plaster is to reinforce the ceiling. And therefore, whose responsibility is that? That's the landlord on the bottom to fix it. That's why he's providing the plaster. Plaster is needed only just to keep the floor flat. And therefore, the flattening of the ground is for the upstairs resident, and that's why he has to provide the plaster. And is that true? That the Rebbe would hold that the guy upstairs is not chayav to prevent water from going down. He used to say, Rebbe Yossi hold in the case where damage is coming directly from the person, like arrows. That's what the concept is called, his arrows. Then it's up to that guy to stop it. Over here, this water is like the guy's arrows. So how come he's not chayav? It says the paski maya b'hadar nafle. It's referring to a case where the water stopped flowing and then it dripped. So basically, it's not directly flowing into the guy's apartment. It has a pit stop or it drips after a few minutes. And therefore, because it's not a direct damage, it's not considered your arrows. And that's why it's different in this case. And that's why the lower tenant is chayav. New Mishnah. The ground floor and upper floor owned by two people collapsed. Amad the guy in the upstairs told the owner of the lower floor to rebuild it. So I could build my second floor. Who wanted to live in it? The guy in the first floor doesn't want to build it. The upper ground can rebuild the first floor, but that can live there until the lower apartment pays him for it. It says, even in this case, you're living in the third property of the other guy, he has to pay him rent. So what he says, you can't do that. So the owner of the upper apartment has to rebuild the lower and upper, and even build a roof over the upper, and then he can stay in the lower apartment. Until the owner of the lower apartment pays him for the expenses. So since he's not building only the lower, that's not fair. That's not right because you're not building the second floor. You're supposed to live in the second floor. So he has to build the first and the second, and then he's eligible to live in the first until the first floor guy pays him to move back upstairs.